take you through to the applications screen. So this, as I've said before, is your dashboard. So any applications that you have submitted or are working on will be on this, and you'll see it shows you here the status of these applications. Some have been received, some are in draft. You can filter just to show you all of them. Those that are received, you can filter by application type. You can also create a project. So if you're working on a project that maybe has a few applications linked to it, you can store them all in a project. And you can also invite members of your team. So if you have a number of staff working on the one project, then you can invite them into that project, and you can set their permissions. So whether you want them to be able to edit an application, create applications, or create, edit, and submit. So I will just run through submitting a sample application then. So you have to give the application a name. This is really just for your own reference. So we'll just put in a name. It'll ask you for a postcode if you know the postcode. If you don't know the postcode, you can submit the grid reference. And there's a link here that takes you to the Irish grid reference finder. So you can type in the address or an address nearby and search for your site. And once you find your site, you simply just right click on the map and it will bring you up the eastings and northings. So you can simply just copy. And if we go in here to enter easting and northing, you can paste those grid references in. And it will then, when you go to draw your site boundary, take you to the site. I'm just going to step back on this one because I do know the postcode of the site, so I'll just enter it in. And it then allows me to select the relevant address and continue. So I then need to draw the site boundary. So I will go in here. It does bring you up a little tutorial that you can step through, and it will show you how to draw around the site. I'll just skip it for now. So it brings you into the mapping. You can use your mouse then just to zoom in to the site. So just going to use this site in between these dwellings here. So to start plotting, you just left click on the site and you can just drag it along, and it is quite intuitive. It does kind of snap along the boundary lines. And obviously the closer you zoom in, the more accurate your plotting will be. If you do go off track and make a mistake, you can just go to here and undo it, and it will undo the last vertex there. So that's just a very rough plot around that site just to show you. So you'll see there, it'll then ask you to either select finish drawing, or if you're not happy with what you've plotted, you can just reset and start again. But we'll just finish that. It'll then bring up your eastings, northings, and your total square meters. Just select continue. It'll then ask you to select your application type. So you'll see the most popular types there: householder, full, reserve matters, and then there's a list here of various different applications. As Louise was talking about earlier, there's your combined applications, and there's outline, clods, majors, everything in there. So for this example, we'll just select a full, and you'll see along the right hand side it kind of gives you just tips and guidance along the way. So at this stage, it's just going to ask you to verify the details you've put in so far before it actually creates the application. So it just gets you to check the name, the location, the boundary, and the type. And sorry, I did mean to say there, just with terms of plotting, there are some sites that are maybe going to be very complex to plot. And we would just encourage that if you try to plot something or plot even a section of the site, then we can fix it up at our end when it does come in. So you'll see here, it gives you kind of a timeline of how far you've progressed, and there's kind of 4 elements to this. There's your questions, your plans, your fee, and then submitting and paying. And at this stage, you have created that application. It'll appear on your dashboard, and you can come and go and work on it as you please. At this stage, it'll give you the option to close and save as we go into this. So it'll bring up your list of questions and let you know at the side there whether they're complete or incomplete. Depending on what type of application, this list may be longer or shorter. So it'll just start by asking you, is the work non-residential in nature? If you select yes, it's going to ask you to select if any of these forms apply here. In this case, we'll select no. So what you answer to a question will determine what questions will follow. So it's just asking here, are we acting on behalf of an applicant? So I'll say yes. And then it'll ask for the applicant details. So I'll just pop my own details in here. So it'll just ask for address if you wish to put in contact details for the applicant. Then it'll ask you for the agent details. So we'll just put in you can put in your company name, your address, and it does ask for a telephone number. Just put in a random mobile number there, and I'll just select my own email address. Because we've already plotted the site, it will put in the application address automatically there. If your site isn't hasn't got a specific building number and maybe just an agricultural field in the countryside that you're going to build a house on or whatever, you'll need to put in here a more detailed description. So the way we would already do, if it's so many meters north of a certain building number, then you would add your site description in here, and that's the description that will carry through. And then it automatically fills your eastings and northings here. It'll ask you then for the area of the site in hectares. So and if you own or control any adjoining land, if you select yes, it's just going to ask you to confirm that you have clearly shown that in blue on your site location map. It then asks for the type of application. This is grayed out because we have selected full earlier on, so we can't amend that. And it's asking if it's for a renewal. If we select yes, it's going to ask you for the reference number and the date that the previous application was granted. Then it's asking us for a description of the proposed development. So we'll just say a dwelling and garage for this one. Has it already started? If you say yes, it's going to ask for more details of when and the nature of the works that have been completed. So this is just asking if this falls into the schedule to be classed as a major. So we'll select no. Are you requesting temporary permission? Again, if you select yes, it's going to ask the reasons why and for how long, etc. Are there any similar proposals on the site? And it will ask you provide a reference number. And have you had any previous applications, PANs or PADs? So you'll see a lot of these questions are similar to what we currently have on our P1 forms. So is the use a new access to the public road being proposed? Or sorry, the use of an existing access, we'll say there's going to be a new access. We're not on a protected route. Going to alter an existing access. If there's a public right of way, it's asking you to confirm that this has been clearly shown on the site location map. How many vehicle parking spaces are currently on site? We'll say none, and we'll say there's going to be 3. Is the site currently vacant? I'll say yes. It'll ask you what the current or last use is. We'll just say agricultural land. And if there was a use that has now ceased, you can enter the date of that. These questions just relate to whether the land is contaminated. And again, it prompts you here that if you've answered yes to these, then you may need to submit a contamination assessment. And just a lot of the similar questions to what we already have, your water supply, surface water, is it known risk of flooding? And again, it prompts you here that you may need to submit a flood risk assessment if you've selected yes. How your files sewage will be disposed of. And then this question asks, does your proposal include the gain, loss or change of use of residential units? So because we are proposing one new dwelling, there is going to be a gain, and it will ask you a similar question for like non-residential industrial uses. There's going to be a loss or gain of floor space as well. So it's saying please select the proposed housing categories that are relevant to your proposal and add the number of bedrooms. So we just go in here to add to this. So it's going to ask you to select the type of housing that you're proposing, whether it's market housing, social housing, etc. So we will select market housing. We'll say that we're proposing 1 3-bedroom house. There is an option for unknown if you're not sure of the number of bedrooms. And just save that. And the next part of this then asks, please select the existing housing categories that are relevant. So we have none, there's no existing properties in this, but we still have to fill this in and leave it as a 0. If, for example, this was a replacement dwelling and there was an existing house, then we would select 1 in here and save. And then you'll see at the bottom here, it's telling us there's 1 proposed residential unit. There are no existing units. So there is a net gain of 1.